Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got some great news for you today. Let's check the numbers while we're doing the headlines here. We got Brad Garlinghouse with a public service announcement. We got Bitcoin Lightning Network. Brian Brooks shares how to make Bitcoin mining more efficient. He's doing a congressional hearing today, testifying. So, word from Stuart Alderati. We're going to hear from Christian Carlo on how to regulate utility tokens. And Eleanor, Terrett, and JohnDeaton reveal the SEC didn't believe XRP was a security before the Hinman letter. That makes you go, We also got Jim Cramer talking with Gary Gensler, and guess what? They may be setting the stage to go after Ethereum next. And we got Augustin Carstens from the BIS on DeFi, and it ain't good, everybody. And number 9 is 300 U.S. banks and Bitcoin trading this year. And we'll tell you exactly when. Somebody wrote that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow me on Twitter at @BackupBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. And give us a follow on Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing exclusive lives there, right here. Digital Perspectives News, no spaces. Give us a follow. Really kicking up some nice conversation there and covering the news on the end of week right there, and do some back and forth on Ask Me Anything kind of stuff. So 2 trillion, 38 billion. Yeah, we're up 3.5+% right now for the cryptocurrency market cap. There's some money coming back into the space, and it's nice to see, even if it's not back at 3 trillion plus. But here's what we're looking at: 4,300 plus for Bitcoin, 3,200 plus for Ethereum. Cardano's $1.40, and Solana is $142 and change. XRP now 75 cents. Let's take it to range of price. 0.7399 on the bottom and 0.7646 on the top. Let's get into this. It's the numbers are brought to you by Link2, and you can right now. The end of January is closing in, everybody. Don't miss out on your chance to get the private equity you want and get some XRP or Bitcoin back. Uphold Wallet. If you purchase your private equity through your Uphold wallet, you can receive $1,500 worth of Bitcoin or invest in any other Link2 offering and receive $1,000 worth of XRP back into your wallet. You got to be accredited, but you don't have to be a member. So go register and get access to that hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of free data on all the companies in the different sectors there. Take a look here as a public service announcement from Brad Garlinghouse right here. Shout out to you, Brad. My semi-annual PSA: notice an uptick lately in XRP giveaways falsely claiming to be from Ripple and or me. These are 100% fake and trying to steal your crypto. Thanks to all reporting the scams. Stay vigilant. And that's what we're doing here. And it's also a reminder that right here at Ground Zero on this channel, the comment section in my YouTube has been riddled for years now with scammers. I get no help from YouTube. I used to pay an assistant to spend 25 or 35 hours a week just trying to get rid of the comments, and they won't go away. It's like a bot that keeps putting them back. And I tell you, just know this: I do not use WhatsApp ever in my life. I will never contact you directly and ask you for money. Please know that in advance. All right, right here, this is where we start, and this is digital asset investor really calling out Julia Chatterley, who was an advocate for crypto and had Brad Garlinghouse on the show many times, but of late, we've heard nothing but crickets coming from CNN and Julia Chatterley when it comes to the SEC versus Ripple and the absolute appearance of impropriety and conflict of interest that's been uncovered in that investigation amongst Twitter sleuths around the space. And I tell you, what they are spending their time doing is talking to this cat here, Jack Mallers, about Lightning, right? Which is Bitcoin's Lightning payment system, which apparently is free. Now, I'm not going to play this whole thing for you because that's what the talk of this is. And I want someone out here who can explain this better to me, that understands that proof of work is an incentive for miners to make money by doing the computation to solve the problems for each hash or each block that takes place, right? So if someone could help me understand how Lightning or Strike or whatever this is able to handle these transactions for free, as Jack Mallers explains, I would love to know, because I do not know the answer. So I would like to know that. And I'd also like to know why Julia Chatterley has chosen to really miss one of the largest financial stories of the century, which is the really conflict of interest between the SEC and how Ethereum got a free pass on an initial coin offering. However, I digress. Brian Brooks is testifying today. This was his thoughts to the Energy Commerce and House Commerce, where he had left these thoughts. And I'm just going to show you just a couple spots in here. Page 4 is down here in this section. He says first, and he's basically what he's doing, because you got to remember, he's the CEO of BitFury now, and they are obviously, doing Bitcoin mining and servicing that industry in that area. So he's addressing to Congress and different committees like the House Committee on Energy Commerce, how to be more efficient. And what he's talking about here, it's important that Bitcoin not be judged solely on the basis of how much energy it uses, but rather on the basis of its energy mix relative to other energy users in the economy, and on the basis of the incentives of Bitcoin creates for creating a more sustainable energy mix. Okay. Now, long and short is what I get out of this. And obviously there is a lot to get out of this. Brian Brooks is a brilliant man. But one of the things I'm condensing in this is the understanding that he's talking about the obvious choice of going to a renewable energy, right? So solar, wind, and things of that nature, to be able to lessen the consumption use instead of using just regular electricity, right? The other point that he makes in here is the value. Basically talking about, and I have it here, I wrote this down for myself. I wanted to show this. It is the value versus energy. So if you can use renewable types of energy, wind, solar, things of that nature, if you can use those for energy to mine Bitcoin, you start looking at the value you get from that asset and what it can provide to hold it and use it versus the energy it took to create it, right? And that's quite an argument, to tell you the truth, if you're talking about renewable energy. Bitcoin could see a huge surge if they find a real viable way to get off of regular coal, oil-powered electricity, right? So, we'll see how this goes. But nevertheless, here's a big story right here. Was XRP declared not to be a security by the SEC in 2018 before the Hinman speech? And the answer is really unequivocally yes. And this is really following a thread from Eleanor, Terrett, and JohnDeaton here. And Eleanor says, on the latest ruling in the SEC versus Ripple, JohnDeaton gave me his biggest takeaways, and here's what I find the most interesting. On June 13th, the day before the speech in 2018 from Hinman, the SEC legal team reviewed whether XRP was a security in a legal memo and did not recommend bringing any enforcement action against Ripple or its executives. How about that? This shows the SEC lawyers did not think it was unequivocal that XRP was a security. So what changed in 2 years? Lots to get into here, and Charles Gasparino was live yesterday. I played that on the early morning video. Make sure you check that out if you have not seen it. Now, here is an amazing thread here from JohnDeaton, because he was discussing this, obviously, with Eleanor Terrett, and he lays out some things to really think about here. Take a look here. So he says, Eleanor Terrett and I were discussing the judge ruling because, as usual, her and Charles Gasparino seem to be the only journalists recognizing the magnitude of this case on the overall digital asset space. I reread the decision, and here are my final takeaways. And this is based on, obviously the Judge Netburn in the Ripple case has ruled that Ripple's request for privileged SEC documents determining XRP as a security, mixed ruling for Ripple, but the judge says all drafts of former SEC official Hinman's now famous speech on what constitutes a security are now his public or personal opinion, right? So we know this. And June 13th, the day before that speech, the legal memorandum regarding whether XRP was security is privileged and will not be turned over. But the judge noted that the legal staff members who wrote this analysis did not present a recommendation to the SEC. Get that? How about that? Can we have that for a second? They looked at it, they reviewed it, and although that we're not able to see exactly what was said, because it's not going to be turned over, the judge acknowledged that the SEC staff members did not present a recommendation to the SEC. This finding is very significant, says JohnDeaton. This means that after the SEC's legal analysis as of June 13, 2018, they did not recommend bringing any enforcement action against Ripple or Brad Garlinghouse or Chris Larsen regarding XRP as a security. The judge also noted that this June 13, 2018 date is before the SEC opened its formal investigation of Ripple and before Brad Garlinghouse met with Clayton and Hinman. But this too is a very significant because when Clayton and Hinman met Garlinghouse months after the memo was written, Garlinghouse spoke out and said Ripple is living in purgatory regarding the XRP status. Neither Hinman nor Clayton responded by informing XRP was a security. You would think if they had formulated that opinion inside the agency, they would have told him without a doubt, you are not in purgatory, you are a security and you need to register. So there is a real purposeful ambiguity that's being displayed here as fact. Otherwise, it would have recommended an enforcement action. At a minimum, it supports what John has said from the beginning, and that is, if the SEC truly believed XRP was a security, it would have sought an injunction to stop Ripple and Jed McCaleb's ongoing sales. How about that? The biggest victory for Ripple and XRP holders from Judge Netburn's recent decision isn't necessarily the email with the draft version of the Hinman speech. The most significant victory could prove to be the notes from the meetings with third parties not associated with Ripple. Who do you think those third parties are? On December 13, 2017, Joseph Lubin and Consensus met with Hinman and others. Oh boy. Old Joseph Lubin, right smack dab in the middle of it, right? We know the venture capitalist working group headed by Perkins Coie, a member of the Ethereum Alliance hired by A16Z Andreessen Horowitz crypto fund, met on March 28, 2018. Lubin met with the SEC again on June 8, just days before the Hinman speech. These notes are no doubt from the above meetings. Judge Netburn ruled the SEC can still invoke attorney-client privilege regarding the personal notes. Now, that's not good for us, that part. However, but that's by Valerie Suspanic, the SEC official, and others. But if the notes contain statements made by the people at the meetings, that part of it is not privileged. You know, you have to ask yourself what JohnDeaton is. Was XRP brought up by anyone at these meetings? Did anyone try to distinguish Ether from XRP at these meetings? Was Ether brought up at all, or Bitcoin? I have no idea, he says, but guess who's filling out a FOIA request based on Judge Netburn's finding? It's not covered by DPP, and that is amazing. And that's why we're very lucky to have this guy doing all of this for all of us. The final takeaways, obviously, is the email with Hinman's speech. It's the email sent to 63 people with a draft of the speech attached. The SEC claimed because Hinman was asking for feedback from other SEC staffers that the email was privileged. What the judge found is very good for Ripple, but it has caused a lot of confusion for many XRP holders. The question of whether Hinman's speech reflected his own opinion, not the agency, is settled. It is his personal opinion. The judge cited Hinman's affidavit that the SEC had him sign. Listen to this. This is how you know the SEC has hung your ass out to dry, William. William Hinman had to sign an affidavit that the SEC had made him sign, as well as multiple letter motions filed by the SEC to state that the speech was not an SEC opinion or declaration, but only William Hinman's personal opinion. And this puts William Hinman in a bad spot, because William Hinman came out and gave clarity that allowed billions of dollars to launch up the Ethereum network, and the SEC has told him, you signed these documents because you had nothing to do with this agency with that opinion in that letter that you put out. Right? So the judge also relies on the affidavit, which states that the SEC has not taken a position on Ether, because both the SEC and Hinman stated that his speech was only his opinion. The email was not privileged. We know this email was sent to 63 people, so that means the email shouldn't be privileged because it was a personal opinion. We know from Eleanor, Terrett, and Charles Gasparino reporting on the Clayton was one of the people that provided input to Hinman. We know from the Hinman deposition that Hester Peirce did not get a copy of the draft. However, listen to this. As a final interesting side note, although Hester Peirce did not get a copy of the draft speech, one of the note takers at one or more of the meetings was attorney Richard Gabbert. Who is he? He was counsel to SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce. Uh-oh. Think about this quandary for Hinman. The SEC threw you under the bus and you had a signed affidavit saying it was only your opinion. If it wasn't meant to be SEC guidance, then why would you gratuitously grant a regulatory free pass to Ethereum? Well. This just shows you how deep the river runs. There is so much wrong here. And just a quick thought here from legal team from Ripple, Stuart Alderati says, we're all trained as lawyers and professionals to be differential to regulators and not to pick fights with regulators. But Ripple didn't pick a fight with the SEC. The SEC picked a fight with Ripple. And that is the truth of it all right there. And there's enough in that thread that we went over to prove exactly that. Now, how do you regulate out of this? How do you regulate utility tokens like XRP, right? How do you get the clarity? Well, Chris Giancarlo, Crypto Dad right here, shares this piece, and this really is a good action piece here, given the significance here and what it talks about. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the securities law treatment of utility tokens, this is what is recommended here, right? And this is really coming from Cadwalader attorneys argue the SEC should revisit the application of securities regulation to the sale of utility tokens. Stay with me now. One, it says what they should do is the SEC should move past like should be treated alike and onto a one size does not fit all. Congress should consider providing any necessary direction. Such legislation might be very simple, something along the lines of the following. The SEC shall conduct a study to evaluate, and it says here it recommends, and 2 is going to be important, but the potential for modifying application of existing system of securities regulation in order to permit, subject to the imposition of such conditions as the SEC finds it in the public interest, the sale by blockchain developers of utility tokens that may be either used on a blockchain network or resold for a profit, where the blockchain may use a portion of the sale price from the tokens to improve the functionality or adoption of the network. 2, this one's important, I think. Whether any such modification should impose limits on the persons that would be permitted purchasers of such tokens, or where such limits might be inappropriate. As in the case of a blockchain network intended to be used by retail consumers, limits on the amount that could be purchased. I think number 2 is a very big point here, because you could make the argument that XRP is money, virtual currency, and that it should be allowed to be open for retail consumers to use it just as institutions on the back end of this thing, right? So we're going to see how all this shakes out here. Initial periodic disclosures that would be required to be made by blockchain network developers, including disclosures as to the network development and as to their qualifications and financial interest. I don't think that's a horrible idea that the blockchain developers need to report, all their disclosures. That's general practice in the conventional markets. limitations on the individuals who may be employed by a blockchain network developer for the purpose of excluding those who have a disciplinary history. And 5, financial controls that could be imposed on the expenditures made by blockchain network developers or reporting requirements with respect to such expenditures. Really trying to make sure that you, number 5 seems like that you don't have a company set up a legitimate blockchain, do some kind of a fundraiser, coin issuance, and then turn around and just blow the money and not be held accountable for it. Now, let's take a look at this, because I believe all of this conversation, and I hope you haven't left here. There's a lot, I know, but this is where this is going. And I want you to listen to this clip that Digital Asset Investor has shared here. And it's Jim Cramer talking to Gary Gensler. And he starts off setting up a T-ball shot for Gary Gensler and using Ethereum as an example. And I, like DAI, do not find this to be a coincidence at all.
Okay, now let's talk about like for like in crypto. Today I went to I got this Ethereum, and I thought this was terrific. I'm earning 9% at this block fee. 9%. My Ethereum is earning 5%. 9%, hey Gary, that's terrific. How the heck can anyone earn 9% on their cash? Something's got to be going on here that you and I don't like.
Oh, now if that's not setting up a softball to hit a grand slam to say that we're going to come after that next, I don't know what is. Keep listening.
Well, Aristotle also wrote extensively about money, by the way, but we won't get into that. I think you're raising something really important about like for like. If you put your money in a mutual fund, there's a whole set of protections around what they invest in and the information they share with you. And to earn, 9%, as you say, in this market, there's probably some risk underneath that, but you get disclosure, you get to decide whether you're comfortable with the risk. That is not the case in crypto. In the crypto asset space, this $1.9 trillion asset space is highly speculative, and you don't have those disclosures. And many of these tokens are in fact investment contracts. It depends on the facts, depends on the individual circumstance, but they're raising money from you, and you are expecting some profit. You're looking for a return based on the efforts of others. And
setting the stage that Ethereum may be next when this Ripple case is over. Now take a look at this, because there's more evidence that DeFi is a problem. And I believe Gator Traders got it right here. You're about to see CBDCs get rammed down your throat, and private stable coins that may be anointed, if you will, right? Crowned, right? Held to a heightened supervisory standard. That's what we're talking about, a heightened prudential here. DeFi is an illusion, says BIS Augustin Carstens. And I believe that is a huge sign that lines up exactly with the conversation we just heard from Jim Cramer and Gary Gensler and DeFi. And I've said this since DeFi became a thing, that it is the next ICO moment in crypto. I really do believe that. And here's more evidence of why. Because since 2009, since Bitcoin became a thing and crypto arrived on this earth as an item, as an asset, you have been watching banks get kicked in the knee because all of their customers have had to go to crypto exchanges to buy these assets. No more. 300 small U.S. banks are set to offer Bitcoin trading in the second quarter of this year. And if that isn't a sign of what is about to happen over the next year or two, I don't know what is. And the idea of all of this conversation and wrestling in the U.S. over how to regulate these assets, I think not too long from now, we're going to know exactly what the plan is. And I think a good portion of this market is going to be treated like digital asset securities. But for that, I hope XRP gets through the door as a virtual currency. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and share with somebody you know. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Everything is happening much quicker than the price reflection, but it is happening fast in the fundamental news world. Head on a swivel. This is Crypto You Never Know. I'll catch all of you on the next one.